Am I the asshole for not letting my boyfriend move into my new apartment after he made us lose our shared one? Throw away because I don't want this drama tied to my real account. Me 23F, and my boyfriend 24M, got evicted a few months ago. We get along well and both of us are otherwise very responsible when it comes to work and household chores. The main issue here is, he games a lot, and is very loud when doing so. I tried to talk to him numerous times about how it's not appropriate to yell at the game in the middle of the night, but he never really listened to me. After too many noise complaints, we finally got evicted. During this time we have lived with a relative, and he has continued to be very loud in front of the computer. Now, I finally found an apartment I can afford, but I told him that I don't want to live with him as long as he keeps this behavior up, and that he will need to find an apartment on his own. I would love to live with him in the future if we ever get a home of our own, as we both dream of living remotely in the future. He thinks it's really shitty of me to decide this over one mistake, but I really don't want to go through this whole apartment searching process if he gets us evicted again, and he really doesn't show any inclination towards changing his behavior in this regard. Most of my friends think I am being unreasonable as well, since it was a one-time thing, but I think getting evicted over noise is a pretty major thing, especially since there was many complaints from the landlord before he kicked us out. And #X200B. Am I the asshole for not letting him have another chance, and forcing him to live on his own? And #X200B. Update. Thanks for all the comments. It was made quite clear here that most of you didn't see me as the asshole here, so I felt comfortable talking to him again about this today with how the two of us should go on from now, and I borrowed some of the points here that I agreed with but really hadn't been able to phrase on my own. It was a good talk. A lot came up that I didn't really know off, and he realized that it's perhaps the best if we live apart for a while, and that he tries therapy to deal with the way he has been feeling for the past year. Hopefully the heated gamer moments will come to an end in the future so that we actually can share an apartment one day. Jokingly suggested testing his hearing since he still has a hard time realizing how loud he has been, and he wants to try that as well. LMAO. Not the asshole. The problem that led to the eviction was not one mistake, and it wasn't a one-time thing, otherwise you guys would not have been evicted. Girl, you are not the asshole. You aren't his mother and he isn't a child anymore. If getting evicted doesn't wake him up to his adult reality, he seriously needs to mature the F up. Being evicted can cause housing issues in the future where landlords don't accept you as a tenant, so you're truly best off without him in your living space. Not the asshole. I'm almost baffled. I'm sure he has lovely qualities, but definitely do not build a life, right now, with someone showing this level of immaturity. How long have y'all been together? Not the asshole. If he did it often enough that you got evicted, it's not one mistake. Housing stability is important. Having one eviction on your record is bad enough. If you get another, you may not be able to find decent housing in the future. Not the asshole. It was not a one-time thing. Y'all weren't evicted over a single shouting gaming session. You were evicted for it happening a lot. Maybe start training him? Sit with him while he games and spray him with a squirt bottle when he starts getting too loud. Not the asshole. Imagine being evicted because he can't keep his voice down. He's 24 and behaves like he doesn't understand basic rules. The real question here is, why are you still with him? Not the asshole. Getting evicted for repeat violations is not one mistake. Each violation was a mistake, culminating into one giant consequence. Your boyfriend has some growing up to do. I can't imagine a landlord going to the trouble of asking a good tenant that pays rent on time to move unless the noise was ridiculous. Your boyfriend needs to get his shit together because being asked to move over this is a huge problem and it doesn't sound like he is fixing it. Not the asshole. Let your friends take him in. Not the asshole. NTA, and he needs to grow TF up and learn to control himself. It's not hard to keep your voice down, and this clearly wasn't just one mistake. Not the asshole, and it wasn't one mistake nor a one-time thing. You asked him before to change the behavior, and he did not, nor has he shown signs of true change yet. So, hold firm, don't live with him. Can't be a one-time thing if there were so many complaints. Not the asshole. One time or not, you get so many warnings before you can be evicted. Plus he has to be pretty damn loud to get enough proof and complaints to get you guys evicted. The fact he never made an effort to correct his behavior and it got to that point says a lot. Not the asshole. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It happened so often you got evicted, despite multiple warnings from you and the landlord. No one evicts someone for one noise. This is a pattern, and minimizing it means he's not interested in changing anything. Gosh, sweetie, if it's a one-time mistake, I'll look forward to seeing you demonstrate that until we're ready to buy a house together. All I've seen so far is that you'll get me evicted from an apartment. That's really not normal, at all. Love you to death, but you need to work on this yourself, for a while. Not the asshole. Yelling at video games is some middle school level childishness. Nothing wrong with gaming, but you're an adult, you should be able to do it without losing control of your body and voice. And him not being willing to work on it is real shitty. If you got evicted, it wasn't a one-time thing. It was a series of bad choices on his part. Any adult knows to keep it down for the neighbors. He got you kicked out, which is a hassle, and thinks you're TA. No. Allow him to come over a few times and see how it goes. No reason to lose your home because your boyfriend can't be quiet. Edit. Not the asshole. Not the asshole at all, but he might wanna get tested for hearing issues. Not the asshole. You are not describing a one-time thing, you have made the right decision. Not the asshole. He should be glad you are even still with him. Lol. Not the asshole. You asked him to be quiet multiple times, but he refused to make any improvement, and he got you kicked out of your apartment. Not the asshole. It was not a one-time thing, or you would have received a warning and still be living in the original rental. Not the asshole. How is it, only one mistake, when he is still doing it? Not the asshole. He had multiple chances to change and chose not to. I wouldn't want to live with an eviction risk either. It's not one mistake, WTH are the people telling you that thinking. You get too many complaints and that's why you were kicked out. Not just once. Not the asshole, of course, and I'm happy for you since now, you probably gonna sleep peacefully for the first time in a long time. Personally, I wouldn't live with a raging gamer even if I'm allowed to. Not the asshole. If it was only a one-time thing, he wouldn't still be doing it at the relative's place. Not the asshole. A one-time thing doesn't get you evicted from your apartment. Doing that one thing a whole bunch is what gets you evicted. And honestly, the fact he screams at HISN video games so loud it got him evicted is embarrassing. Not the asshole. If he is unable and unwilling to change up his habits so he can have a place to live, then you need to rethink being his girlfriend. Anyone that would prioritize something frivolous like gaming over the basic necessities in a relationship doesn't have the right priorities. Neither do your friends, for that matter, but you're not sleeping with them a fake. Not the asshole. Getting evicted isn't one mistake, it's a long series of bad behavior that is unpleasant to be around. How loud must he have been screaming to get you evicted over noise complaints? I wouldn't want to live with that at all, and the fact that he's trying to make you the bad guy after he got you both evicted suggests it's going to happen again. Not the asshole. If he had many complaints, he had plenty of time to take that to heart and stop. He needs to live on his own for a while. Random question: was it difficult to rent again after having been evicted? Not the asshole. The thing is, this wasn't a one-time thing or one mistake, as multiple complaints led to the eviction. Since his behavior after the fact seems to indicate that he didn't learn anything from the eviction, and the fact that the landlord had multiple complaints that he chose to ignore, I think it's wise to tell him to get his own place. Not the asshole. The thing is, it isn't a one-time thing. Okay. The getting evicted part is a one-time thing. So far. Let's keep it that way. The actual cause of the eviction, however, is ongoing to this day. He's still being loud in front the computer, so anyone telling you it was a one-time thing is full of bull and free to take him in. You're right to get yourself an APPT as long as his behavior doesn't change. This is on him and part of adulthood. Actions have consequences. Don't like the consequences? Change your actions. Also, how can a man his age be so loud while gaming to warrant an eviction? I can see an 8-yo making that much noise, but not an adult. And I say this as a gamer myself with a loud voice. I never managed to wake up my wife, let alone any neighbors. Sheesh. Not the asshole. It's not a one-time thing, you don't get evicted over one complaint. He had to have been warned multiple times and never changed his behavior despite knowing the consequences. That right there proves living with him in an apartment is too high of a risk. Stand your ground, this is a perfectly nice hill to die on. He thinks it's really shitty of me to decide this over one mistake, but he has continued to be very loud in front of the computer. Info: has his behavior significantly changed? He got you both kicked out of your apartment and seemingly feels no remorse about it, and still refuses to change his behavior. This isn't drama, this is just pure idiocy. Why would you want to stay with someone who is this level of brain dead? Your friends are even more brain dead if they are actually defending him. You seem like you understand basic things about functioning as an adult and respecting other people, and your boyfriend and friends are still in some kind of selfish toddler screamathon gamer mode. You may want to consider if these are truly the people you want to surround yourself with. Not the asshole. It wasn't a one-time thing. Your boyfriend repeatedly violated noise guidelines, resulting in multiple warnings and then an eviction. If you were on the lease, then that eviction is part of your rental history for the next several years. Your boyfriend's inability to control his emotions and behavior impacted you in both the short and long term. In addition to not letting him live with you, you may want to limit how often he visits or prohibit him from sleeping at your new place, since he could repeat that behavior and cause you new problems. NTA, didn't even read it. You don't have to live with anyone you don't want to live with. Not the asshole. His inability to control himself to ensure you both have a roof over your heads is key here. Don't let him move in. He doesn't think he is the problem. Not the asshole, and he clearly doesn't understand what he has done wrong if he thinks it was just one mistake. Shouting once in the middle of the night would be one mistake. Being very generous, having a one-night shit fit could be seen as one mistake. Doing it over and over to the point that you were both evicted isn't one mistake, it's a terrible pattern of behavior that he obviously has no intention of changing. He'll drag you down with you until he sees the error of his ways. Not the asshole. Honestly, if I got evicted from my home because a grown-ass person acting like a child got me evicted, well, that's kind of a deal breaker. Not the asshole. If it went on long enough for you to be evicted, it is definitely a habit, not a one-time thing. Like, what behavioral changes has he exhibited that demonstrate he won't immediately act the same way? It sounds like the answer is none. Not the asshole. One mistake would be him making noise at night one time. You discussed the matter with him. There were several warnings from the landlord. How TF did he not stop after the first is beyond me, and he got you evicted from your apartment. To top it all off, he hasn't learned a single thing and is now putting the relative, who graciously took him in, at risk too. Let him get his own place and go ask his neighbors after a year or so before you reconsider. He needs to grow up and get his act together. It's not one mistake, you know it, he knows it. He is just in denial. Let's hope he wakes up one day. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The eviction was once, but the behavior that caused it was repeated even after telling him to stop. It's completely reasonable to not want to rent a home with someone who got you kicked out of your last one. It's protecting yourself, and you come first. IANAL or a landlord, but some of work customers are landlords in the UK if that matters. People forgot that evicting a tenant costs the landlord a lot. Not only monetary but also time. You don't get landlords evicting tenants over small issues, it simply isn't worth their time or money. So your landlord must have had a lot of complaints in order to act upon it. Don't let your boyfriend downplay this, it is a serious issue. If you didn't have a relative to move in, you would be homeless, remember that. Not the asshole. And #X200B. It was not a one-time thing. Every time the landlord knocked on your door to tell you about the complaints, your boyfriend knew he had to change his behavior, but he didn't. Even in your in-between living situation with your relative, he does the exact same thing. Make him change first and then let him move in. Not the asshole. He got you evicted, and won't change the behavior that did it. I lived in an apartment where our downstairs neighbors reported us for noise once a week. We worked nights, and they complained about us walking shower IBG too loud, despite us trying to work it out with them, since they lived directly underneath us, and we never got kicked out for it. It must have been pretty bad to be evicted for noise. Not the asshole. It wasn't one time. It's continuous. You got evicted for several complaints, and he pulled the same thing at your relative's house. Home security is important. I don't know which he has more of, audacity or entitlement. Either way, thank you. Next. NTA. Not the asshole. I can't help but notice he hasn't actually mentioned not making the same mistake, just that it's unfair that he can't live with you. Nope, not the asshole.